Hello, my name is Hector Bocardo. I will talk about a case called Aceitera del Sol. This is a control management case, and we will talk about some of our main issues that we experience when we want to increase our market share, maybe move to another country or increase the local market. So I will start to talk about the facts and events of the case. Aceitera del Sol is a manufacturing and retail company based in Argentina. They operate in two markets. The first market, the domestic one, they produce and sell sunflower oil mainly. The other market, the international one, is focused on soybean and canola oil exports. This market is the main focus of the case. Demand for canola oil in China and Southeast Asia was growing, and Aceitera del Sol aimed to increase its market share due to low domestic demand and the advantage of harvesting canola in a different season than sunflower and soybean. Here we have our next question. Who are the main characters of this case? Of course, the most important is Don Luis Gonzalez. He is the founder and owner of Aceitera del Sol. He had an entrepreneurial spirit and a somewhat impulsive approach of making decisions. He understood control as a source of motivation and a way to promote a shared vision. Aiming to expand exports to China and Southeast Asia, he recognized the region's growing demand and traveled to China in 2007. There he met Wei Chen, a Chinese government official and economic graduate from Universidad Complutense in Spain, who showed some interest in moving to Hong Kong to establish a trading company. Also, Tomás Estrada, the company's CFO and Don Luis' son-in-law. He had a different perspective of the company. He favored a more structured, data-driven approach to decision-making and advocated for implementing a control system and a robust database to guide strategic choices. Finally, we have Luis Aguilar. Luis Aguilar was the head of sales, and he expressed some concerns about the company's growing dependence on Wei Chen. He feared that Wei might engage in negotiations with other customers for personal gain, potentially putting Aceitera del Sol's interest at risk. And here we have another question. What are their concerns? Don Luis invited Wei to Argentina. During this visit, they decided to establish a commercial representative office in Hong Kong. In 2008, the representative office was opened. The office would be allowed to trade Aceitera del Sol products, competitor oils, and other goods unrelated to the oil market. After some months at the beginning of 2009, the office raised some concerns within Aceitera del Sol leadership team. Aceitera del Sol didn't know how the office had been created, and no one had visibility into the company's current situation. We have to consider the following 2 points. The first one, the balance sheet and P&L statement had not been issued on quarterly basis since the office was open. Several questions were raised by leadership team. Were they truly committed to Aceitera del Sol? How are we measuring the company's performance? What is at risk with this new representative office? Did they have clearly defined goals? It's also important to note that in the rest of the companies within the group, management positions were typically held by relatives or close family friends. Now, regarding this representative office, its business model was based on acting as a broker, sharing only 1.5% commission by each sale made through this office, as very similar as the rest of the competitors in the market. In this slide, you will see how the business was structured, where all the activities, sales, finance, accounting, and management are centralized under Wei Chen's direction. Luis Aguilar raised some concerns about this setup. Additionally, none of these roles receive any additional compensations or incentives to improve their performance on a daily basis. Wei Chen is the only employee who receives additional benefits based on net profit, the 33% of the annual net profit. But why Hong Kong? Opening a trading company in Hong Kong offers strategic advantages such as low taxes, excellent logistics, and access to Asian markets. Despite the distance from Argentina, its stable legal system and pro-business environment make it an ideal hub for international trade and expansion into China and Southeast Asia. Based on this context, now we have to figure out how are they performing at the end of 2008 and at the beginning of 2009. So we have to run some forecasts and we have to make some numbers to clarify what's going on with this office in Hong Kong. So based on these numbers, we have two questions. How to manage this business and how to integrate this to our current business in Argentina. In 2007, Aceitera del Sol reached 200 million in sales, 70% from domestic market and 30% from internationals. With a broker commission of 1.5% on sales, in recent years, soybean oil sales to Asia reached 30 million, with a positive growth prospects driven by increasing demand in the region. For the company, it was important to develop new customers for canola oil, as this market was not yet significant in Argentina. Based on this brief context, it is important to forecast key figures and analyze the current situation. Using the 2007 sales structure as a baseline, we can estimate the potential growth to project the 2008 performance in this office. Total sales are expected to reach 212 million, reflecting a 6.3% year-on-year increase in export sales. We are projecting at $64 million, with 32 million coming from Asia, an increase of 7% year-on-year. This will take to Aceitera del Sol an additional growth of also 7%. Based on these numbers, we will forecast the Hong Kong performance to implement a control strategy and try to measure weight chain performance during these months. Even with these numbers, one question remains. How should this business be managed? And how did they perform in 2009? Based on the figures available, we can model the expected results on both a monthly and annual basis. This is how the P&L will look at the end of 2008 for weight change office, assuming 5 months of sunflower oil sales totaling $33.4 million and applying the 1.5% broker service fee. The office would report $200,000 in revenue versus $222,000 in expenses, resulting in a net loss of $21,000. Given the result, there is no need to pay dividend to weight change for this year. But what about the next one? As mentioned in the case, in 2009, weight change is working on a new contract for $6 million. This contract is for canola oil. Given the current scenario where no goals or performance thresholds are defined for this office, Aceitera del Sol may face two possible situations. In the first scenario, without the $6 million contract, sales will grow by 6.6% year-on-year, reaching 226 million, with a share of sales split of 69.4% in the domestic sales and 30.6% in the export sales. Within export, soybean oil sales to Asia would account 59%. In the second scenario, with the 6 million contract, Aceitera del Sol sales will grow by 9.4% year-over-year, reaching 232 million, with a share of sale of 77% in domestic sales and 32% in exports. So in this case, the Asian market will represent 54% of the total export sales. This is good, of course. And we can see what happens if we don't implement proper controls at the representative office in Hong Kong during 2009. Several issues could arise. Even without securing the $6 million canola oil contract, weight chain would still receive a dividend simply by trading soybean oil. The office would generate enough revenue to cover its expenses and report a net profit for this year. This scenario overlooks the office's original objective, to increase canola oil sales in the Asian market. Furthermore, since weight chain is permitted to trade other products, his commitment to Aceitera del Sol portfolio may be limited in the first scenario. And as you will see in the slide, in the first scenario, we will get a net profit by $109 in the first scenario without the $6 million contract. And in the second one, if we add the $6 million contract, we will reach a $184,000 net profit for 2009. I think it's a good deal for weight chain. He will get a dividend just without push the canola oil market in Asia. But what do we propose as a solution to this issue? First, allocate expenses based on the share of sale of each channel, creating two separate P&Ls. One for Aceitera del Sol products and another one for the rest of the products, including also competitors' oil. In this model, Aceitera del Sol will cover 86% of the expenses, while the remaining 14% will be covered by the other products. In both cases, oil and other products will be shared with the same commission rate of 1.5% for each transaction. For the office to break even in terms of the expenses, it must be traded up to $30 million in soybean on an annual basis. Any remaining volume should be handled through our current brokers to diversify the risk and avoid over-reliance on this office, of course. This approach encourages Wei Chain to actively pursue new customers. If he wants to receive a dividend, he must focus on development the canola oil market and expanding the customer base for this office. As part of a new renegotiation, we can offer Wei Chain an increase in dividends from 33 to 35% of the net profit generated from Aceitera del Sol products, and only 20% from the other products channel. At the beginning of each year, we must align on annual growth targets. In this example, we are assuming a 45% growth rate for canola oil, 20% for other products, and an annual inflation adjustment for sunflower oil. This target should be coordinated with the FP&A team to ensure the accurate forecast in benefit of the office and, of course, of Aceitera del Sol in Argentina. Additionally, the team should monitor financial performance on monthly basis, address deviations from the goal, and propose remediation plans as needed. For me, this should be the center of the solution. Align the local objectives to the corporate strategy. With this structure, even if Wei Chain focuses on other products line, he would need to double his effort to generate the same level of dividends as those from Aceitera del Sol channel products. While negotiations were held only with Wei Chain, it is important to consider the contribution of the other two executives. We recommend offering them also a percentage, 25% to the executive responsible for oil products and 22% to the one in charge of the other channel. This will help to align incentives, maintain Wei Chain's focus on canola oil, and motivate the second executive also with the performance-based bonus tied to her business line. In total, 57% of net profit will be paid as dividend during the first year, higher than the original planned 53% for Wei Chain. However, this represents 2.1% of Aceitera del Sol's total sales, making the investment in this office and the return on investment justifiable. Based on this number, I think this will be a good investment. Let's continue with the case. Once this 2009 scenario is defined, we can forecast operations through 2012. Following the same trend, Wei Chain will receive 52% of net profit as dividends, based on his share across the two channels created for this office. In total, 56% of the office net profit will be distributed among the three employees. In this forecast, canola oil will represent 46% of office share of sales. Despite growth in the other products line, Aceitera del Sol products will still account for 79% of the total office sales. It's important to know that the total investment, including broker fees, office expenses, and dividend, will represent just 1.4% of Aceitera del Sol total sales, below the 2.1% in 2009, reflecting 70 basis points decrease over the 4 years. Additionally, to reduce Wei Chain control, it is necessary to outsource the accounting function and create also an independent point of view for this company. I think this also will add value to this new office. In this point, we have to keep in mind this. Aceitera del Sol is primarily a manufacturing and retail company. Trading is a secondary activity. Allocating internal resources to this side business may lead to confusion or misalignment in the company. As previously mentioned, the best way to ensure alignment with the corporate strategy is to incorporate this activity into the annual financial plan as part of the business, not as a separate office. From a cash flow perspective, dividend payments should only be made if the following conditions are met. The first one, we need financial statements audited from an external auditor. This service should be covered from a separated accounting service provider. The bank balance must be at least 1 to 1.5 times the proposed dividend amount. This will ensure sufficient liquidity and will encourage the management of receivable and payable accounts in an efficient way. Bank ownership and controls must be aligned. First, withdrawals or payments exceeding $200,000 should require an approval from an Aceitera del Sol employee in Argentina. We need to add this segregation of duties activities to also improve the performance of this office on daily basis. Finally, based on our previous discussion, we have the conclusion of the case. And we have to raise two last questions. What about the impact in Aceitera del Sol performance after these transactions? Do we have a real benefit? Okay. From 2008 to 2012, we aim to increase our total sales by 43%, raising the share of export sales from 30 to 38%, and sales in Asia from 15 to 24%. As you can see, the growth in soybean oil sales remains steady, while our focus has shifted to canola oil, which now represents the 8% of the total share of the company. This shift also helps us to diversify risk by reducing our dependence on the same products. It is essential to coordinate not only with the finance team, we also have to work coordinated with the production team. We must ensure timely delivery to meet rising demand in the Asian market. And we should ask this: are we prepared to scale up production to match the expected growth? How much time will take it to increase our capacity? And also, how much do we have to invest to continue the growth in the market? Okay, based on the conclusions I have said a couple of minutes ago, I hope you enjoyed this case. I really enjoyed the way I tried to solve it. And thank you so much to all of you for your time. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.